Welcome to Star Wars Timeline. If this is your first time here, make yourselves comfortable. Today we're talking about the Bad Batch series premiere. I have broken down this review into three sections. We're going to talk about the story, the animation, and the action. Don't worry, this is a completely spoiler-free review. You don't have to worry about a thing. I appreciate how much fans don't want to get any spoilers, so no worries here. I will just discuss my personal impression from this episode, and we're going to discuss spoilers in a completely different video. Before we get there, my name is Ben. I do Star Wars comic book and book reviews, character highlights, lore videos, and so on. If you enjoy this stuff, please subscribe to my channel, support me, I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's get on with it. Before we get to the first item in our list, let me give you an overall impression. What did I think of this season premiere? I went into it with zero expectations. As much as I love the Clone Wars show and then the Rebel show which came after it, I think those two are some of the best storytelling we ever get in Star Wars since the original saga. So my expectations were tempered. I went into it with a completely open mind. So was it good? Not really. Was it great? I wouldn't call it that. It's freaking amazing, guys. Honestly, like, I'm not trying to blow it up. It's as perfect as a season premiere of any show as I can possibly think of, and I don't see how it could have been any better. It gave me everything. It almost felt like watching a complete episode back at the movie theaters, you know? It's wholesome, it gives you a complete story arc, and obviously it opens up this window into this whole new show and begs the question, what's going to happen in the next episode? So now let's talk about the story. When it comes to Star Wars or any other entertainment, for me, story takes the priority, always, in every single case. Because if it's not there and the character is not memorable, the action falls apart and I get bored quickly. So what's the story here? Right from the first seconds, you understand that the show honors its legacy. It understands where it's coming from the Clone Wars TV series, from George Lucas's own creation, but at the same time, it sets up new beats and it knows exactly what it wants to be. I have my cliff notes here and I'm going to go over them, guys, because, you know, I don't want to stumble too much. What's interesting here also is that the returning cast that we see in this show complements all the new characters. And there's no nostalgia here and no reliance on like, oh, look, this character popped out, you know, maybe you'll get excited. No, everything done here informs the story and moves it forward. Dave Filoni demonstrates how much of a creative genius he is. And at the same time, the episode almost felt like it has the invincible hand of George Lucas kind of pushing him on forward and tells him, you know, take it on forward and push with this new Star Wars series. And it kind of touched my heart, guys. It felt really special moment. Another thing I want to talk about is how dark and gritty this episode felt. It set the tone and it understands its audience, that all the kids that have been watching the Clone Wars show back in 2008 have grown up. And this new show has grown up with us, and I'm very happy for that. Also, I think the fans of the prequel series will enjoy this episode as well, especially the fans who thought that the Revenge of the Sith Episode 3 was the best one, or is their favorite Star Wars movie. Remember that quiet moment during the Order 66, before all the chaos breaks loose and all the Jedi get tragically murdered by the new Empire? This is how this entire episode felt, just quiet, unbelievable tension. Another thing I'd like to talk about is how humanized the clones were. In the Clone Wars series, it takes a while before you begin to understand that these seemingly backstage characters, the cloners, are really the stars of the show. And Bad Batch pushes that narrative forward. We meet this new team, and in their eyes, the clones are humanized. But the difference here is that in the Clone Wars show, they constantly followed their orders. They were loyal. In here, they're questioning the orders. They see how this environment is changing around them, and they're not willing to participate in these atrocities that the Empire is committing. Wonderful stuff, guys, here. Now, let's quickly touch on the action. The trailer was action-packed, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you had anticipations of what it's going to bring. Don't worry, guys. Dave Filoni is taking care of you here. It has some amazing action set pieces. I would say, to this date, probably some of the best stuff we've seen in Star Wars animation. Yeah, it's that freaking good. But it's always greatly paced, and it punctuates the story and informs it very well. The action is not there just for its own sake. Like, oh, look, you know, stuff is blowing up. Clones are getting killed left and right. No. It's there to push the story forward, and that's personally what I'm looking for. At the same time, I don't want to say that story overshadows the action. No, there's equal and great balance between the two. And the final item I want to talk about is the animation. As a trained animator myself, I have a BA degree in traditional animation from School of Visual Arts here in New York City, but I never pursued it as a career professionally, so I'm kind of like blowing up my own horn here, calling myself an animator. But that's one item I was really looking forward to, and I wanted to analyze and look how it has evolved from the Rebels and the Clone Wars shows and moved on here. And I'm happy to report once again, they've done an absolutely wonderful stuff here. The human movements are so much more grounded and realistic. If you remember the lightsaber duels in the Clone Wars, they kind of felt choppy and stiff a little bit. And that's understandable because they were producing an animated show on the scale that was never done before. It was quite ambitious for its time, and I felt that animation suffered just a little bit, but it did improve over the years, and especially in Rebels show where it looked a lot more fluid. Or take a look at the season 7 of the Clone Wars show, which obviously took place many years after. It's so fluid and wonderful, and the same trend follows here. It feels like they really put some money into this, guys. Very, very expensive, very highly produced stuff. Wonderful. I have nothing bad to say about it. Also, there's a much darker palette here. Very incredibly detailed environments. Again, if you remember the earlier seasons of the Clone Wars show, the backgrounds almost look like Lego pieces. Well, I'm exaggerating, of course, but that's how they felt. A little barren, a little stiff. Here, everything is movement. Everything. You see the flora and fauna and the vegetation and trees. There's one set in this episode here, which you will travel to, which gives us that exotic planet vibe. I felt that all the details in there are absolutely fantastic. And the last point I'd like to say that kind of relates to animation is the cinematography of the show. It features a much darker color palette, communicating that it's closer to the adults. It says, hey guys, come over here. This show is for you as well. The environments are also incredibly detailed. There's one place that you visit in this episode, which gives us that otherworldly, exotic planet feel. And the environment is just brimming with detail and movements. And I just felt it was absolutely wonderful. So that's all for my non-spoiler review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, I'll probably throw another full spoiler review and discuss the characters or specific items that I enjoyed. My name is Benjamin, and I do Star Wars comic book and book reviews. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. Leave some comments down below what you thought of this episode. I would love to discuss it with you. And I will see you next week for the next review.